Hi, everyone. I'm Steve. I'm here with David Wright, who is a personal trainer at Parkway Athletic Club in Carson, also one of our nutrition coaches. As always, thanks for being here, David.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right, so diet is a huge part of what you do as a physique competitor. So we're going to talk about what can you get away with? And we always say diets are not, when we say diet, we don't mean this type of diet or the Twinkie diet or some diet, some fad diet. We mean a way of eating. So we're going to talk about what can you get away with in your way of eating to maximize your health. If you guys are interested in our weight loss program, use the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. And if you like interviews with personal trainers, doctors, nutritionists, what goes on in a health club, subscribe to the channel. So I know what I do. Let's just kind of talk about what we do as far as what a cheat day is or a cheat weekend or a cheat week. And I know that you don't do a lot of this except for after a show, right?
Correct.
And then you like ice cream, right?
Love it. That and cookies are one of my favorite things, to be honest.
Yeah, see, I never eat ice cream or cookies or cake. And I mean, I have, but in years, I just don't. That's not part of my cheat. But you're so strict, and then you're bad for maybe, what, a day or two or so on, and it's not really going to hurt you. But let's talk about just how people should be eating in general. And then let's talk about what I know what I can get away with. And when I say what can you get away with, it's different if you're trying to stay at 8% body fat as opposed to me trying to stay around 13 or 14% body fat. That's different. At my age, trying to stay at that. Now, that's not easy. I can't just stay at 13% body fat eating junk because I won't be at 13% for very long. I'll jump to 20 in months, literally, if I ate junk. Now, you can't get away with much if you're trying to stay around 8% or under 10%, which you do a lot of the year. So let's just talk about average people. If they want to stay, a man, let's say, who wants to stay under 15%, what do you got to do?
So I think the most important thing, for any person who wants to, like you said, if there's, a person out there, they want to stay at 15% or so. For a male, that's, a decent body fat percent. It's not super high. It's kind of in the average range there, and it's still fairly healthy and everything.
Wait a minute,
like that.
you think 15% is average?
Well, Steve, doing, the work that I do here, at Parkway with our scans and such, there is a pretty big population out there. Now, I'm not saying it's the most healthy place to be, but
I think 15% is low, though. I mean, average, depending. I think average for the average man has got to be in the 20s.
It depends, but I mean, there is a good amount of people that are over 15. So maybe average isn't the right word to use. I guess maybe low average. I mean, I've seen people around that, but it's generally, yeah, they're higher. But one of the things that people don't often do with their diet and their nutrition, and again, like I said, when we say diet, it's not some fad diet or anything like that. It's literally just what you put in your mouth. That's what it boils down to. And one of the things that I hear a lot of, I've heard a lot of this before I was even, a nutrition coach or even a trainer or anything like that. Even just during my own fitness journey, it's people will be pretty consistent and eat pretty well, whether it's, they're into eating, whole foods like you and I talk about a lot of time on this channel, but they'll eat whole foods, they'll do really good, they'll stay on like a meal plan or, certain types of meals and do great throughout the week. And then they say, oh, you know what, it's Friday. So I'm going to go out with, some friends, or I'm going to, whatever, or I'm going to go have a cheat, meal. So then Saturday comes along, you know what, I'm not going to go to the gym today because I'm taking the day off, or I take the weekend off, which is not a big deal. A lot of people might take weekends off from, the gym or whatever, whatever works for them. But the problem becomes then Saturday's a cheat day also, not because you don't go to the gym, but because we also, we go, I've done so good all week. So now I'm going to just, you know, I don't like to use the term binge eat, but a lot of times that's what people will do because one meal, let's say out at a restaurant, if you go and order, the baked potato with all the fixings and the burger and the dessert, that could be 5,000 calories in one meal. So that's not even a whole day.
That's a
That's just
lot.
one. Right, that's just one thing that you eat. And so or one meal throughout the day. Doesn't count anything else that you ate before then, after then, that kind of thing. So when we go out and we say, I'm just going to let loose, meal wise, okay, I'm going to have fun, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem becomes it's not healthy, number one, to kind of I'll use the term again, binge eat for that day or 2 days, or sometimes they'll Friday night, Saturday, and then even into Sunday, and then Monday go back to I'm going to get back on my routine. What that does is that sets you back that whole week that you just did so well, and now you overate all these calories. And people say, I go to the gym 5 days a week, I eat really good Monday through Friday, like I don't understand why I'm not seeing results. And a lot of times that's just because it's what you don't do on Saturday and Sunday, which is eat good and eat consistently. So for me, for example, Sunday through Saturday, 7 days a week, I'm eating consistent meals at similar times, all these different things. Now, a lot of people would find some of that kind of stuff boring, and I would never say that everybody has to do what I do. But for me, after, let's say, a physique show, so in October of this year, for me, we'll be like, okay, I'm going to go out that night afterwards and have something. And then, it's the next day, I'm back on my meal plan and I'm back at the gym and I'm back, getting back into that same routine. It's almost like you never stopped to begin with. That's not an easy thing to even start to do and really have the discipline to do. So for people who aren't really in that kind of a focus, the main thing you need to remember is Saturday, Sunday, Friday night, they're still days of the week. Even though it might be something where you might not go to the gym, maybe you'll go hang out with family, friends, go travel, whatever the case might be, those days still count. So, for your own health, whether you're looking for weight loss, muscle gain, both, or neither, maybe you're just trying to stay where you're at, that's going to impact you greatly because, like I said, a lot of people don't take into account maybe they've even eaten in a slight calorie deficit throughout the whole week. They blow all of that out of the water on Saturday and Sunday. So it's like you never did it to begin with. And so you're putting all of this, junk usually because it's that high in calories into your body. So that just kind of takes away that whole week that you just did. As far as wanting to, get down the body fat or stay where you're at, it makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to do that when we binge eat or just kind of eat freely on the weekend. Now, sometimes we may not stay on that same exact meal plan that we were on the whole week. On the weekends, maybe we eat a little more food, or even if you snuck in a treat. When I say treat, it's not a large blizzard from Dairy Queen. It's maybe something that you just wouldn't necessarily eat, a small treat or sweet or something like that. That's not super high in calories. Yeah, do that. That's not really going to mess anything up. What messes us up is we don't know how many calories it is. We don't care because we're just letting loose for the weekend. So there's a lot of impact that can be done in just those 2 days. Whereas if you kind of reverse that course and said, hey, I might just go eat a different kind of food, but I'm also going to be really aware of what I'm putting in my body and how many calories that is. Because like I said, some of these restaurants that are out there, I mean, one meal, just the dinner part could be 2,500, 3,000 calories with tons and tons of other added stuff that we don't even have time to talk about on this particular show, but there's a lot there. So you could do a lot of reverse damage to what you've been working for for the whole week.
Yeah, you have to find the right sweet spot for each person. And like for
Mhm.
me, so first of all, we go to my wife and we go out every Friday night and we'll go somewhere where I know the food. I've asked a lot of questions about the food, where it's fish, and where it can get you eating out is the sauces and the different things that are on the food. You
Mhm.
can easily suck up 1,000 calories right there with what's on the food that's not even the food. because it's not plain. They're making it taste good. So we always go to the restaurants that we know, the usually higher end restaurants where we know they're using olive oil to cook with and to make their sauces, and they make them from scratch. It's not something in a bottle, which is always going to be bad. Well, not all of it. There's some companies out there that focus on healthy sauces and salad dressings and so on. So I'll go out, I'll have a cocktail or two on Friday night, but I know that I'm eating pretty healthy food because we know the restaurant. It's not fast food. It's not some place where they have all these sauces, and I don't take the ketchup off the table and put it on my food because it's not organic. So I know I can get away with that. And I haven't been over 15% body fat. I mean, very few times in my life. I've always been kind of skinny, but I know that I can stay around 13%. To get lower than that, it's really hard without losing muscle, but I know what I can get away with. I know, if I might go out and I might have a chicken bowl at a Mexican restaurant. I'll have a chicken bowl and I'll get extra chicken. Sometimes it's a pound of chicken breast and it doesn't have the tortillas. If I'm really going to splurge, I'll get fajitas with the tortillas. So I'm not going nuts or crazy when I have a cheat day or a cheat night and I'm going out with my wife, and we don't go nuts. We don't go crazy. We always have our own salt, our own pepper, our own sweetener, all that stuff when we go out. And when I go out to breakfast, we go to the same places, and it's eggs, bacon, sausage. That's what I eat for breakfast, and that's usually once a week. So I think it's important for everyone. You got to keep track of this, and you got to know your body. You can't just go willy-nilly and say a cheat day is I'm going to eat everything bad all day long, because that will probably backfire on you.
Yeah, well, and Steve, the other part I'll point out about the term that we use when we say, like a cheat meal, and a lot of people will turn that into what you just said. So a cheat day, where the whole day is just like I'm gonna, eat whatever I want the whole day. Okay, well, because I ate this other way during the whole week. So when we say, and this is definitely important, especially for somebody like me, when even when I'm not prepping for a show like I am now, even in the quote unquote off season, which there never really is a particular off season, but um, I'll have a cheap meal, which might be like some sweet potato fries, and I've liked to try them different ways, or even make them at home some different ways, and like a hamburger, like that's the cheap meal. And it's not much of a cheat because it's ground beef, it's potatoes. It's not from somewhere like like an Arby's or someplace where who knows what's in the food. So to your point, it's good to know what they're being made from, what kind of things they use, but also that a cheat day um has a huge impact. And some people will be like, oh, it's my cheat day today. And they really put that in their head of, I'm just going to go eat whatever the heck I want, donuts, and who knows what people's preferences for cheat is. And so for me, I also kind of changed it a little bit in my own uh, mental self to say like a treat meal, because then it's not like I can't have it, it's I choose not to because I've got goals, I want to be in a certain spot. But even if you're not preparing for a show or sports competition or anything like that, you just want to be healthy, it's the same kind of mentality. You have to say, you know what, I want to be healthy. I want not only to lose body fat, but internally, fast food and things that are just cooked in who knows what can do a lot of damage without you even knowing it until much, much later, years later, in fact, a lot of times. So by eating the whole foods and not going crazy on the weekends, that does make a huge difference even in the long term, because you're not subjecting yourself to all of that. So just want to say that because, I've been there where I used to, cheat day. So I'd be like, oh, I'll have this for breakfast. I'll have this for whatever. As you and I know, I was 260 pounds at one time. Every day was a cheat day almost with that. And so now it's like, that's one of my motivating factors is I've got goals at this point. And so even if your goals are not the same as mine or Steve's or whoever, you've got your own goal. If your goal is just to stay healthy, you need to take those steps to stay healthy the whole time. Have some fun, eat some things that you don't like, maybe have more variety than obviously what I eat, but control it because you can do that. I mean, you're the only one who can do that. So it's really important to know what you're eating and how much.
Yeah. A cheat day is, you can't go eat 6, 7, 8 donuts. I mean, it's got to take your liver's pretty resilient, but it's going to take your liver a while to recoup and recover from like 6 or 7 donuts because it's all trans fat and just garbage. And then,
Mhm.
pizza after that. I don't think it's going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, that would be very difficult for anybody.
Okay, David. So if people want to follow you online and see what you're doing with your competitions and all that, how do they follow you?
So they can follow me on Instagram at davidwright_fitness. That's where I have like my whole fitness journeys on there. So you'll be able to see kind of what I'm doing. And then at Wright Fitness Training also on Instagram for more of the personal training side of things.
Thanks for being with us, David.
Thanks, Steve.